Good afternoon and evening, digital media friends around the world. My name is Martin Lindsay, and you are tuned in to the Ubuntu Media Academy's YouTube channel for today's webinar. Use LinkedIn to get ahead personally and professionally. We have a number of people who have registered for today's class webinar, so share with us who you are in the chat section to the right there. You'll see a graphic for the Ubuntu Media Academy's channel, a picture of myself and my co-creator Kelechi Udwagu, and you'll see a couple of preliminary chat comments that I've put in there already. So please chime in. We'd like you to enter your name and the country that you're from right there in the chat section. So give us a feel for who's joining us today, the wide spread of geography that's represented, and we will get started here in just a few moments. Hope everyone is having a good day if your work day is still in progress, or have had a good work day if you're in places like Ghana or Nigeria where you've ended your day or are getting close to it. Get to our slides here. All right, yes. So the Ubuntu Media Academy's LinkedIn Masterclass. You'll notice the hashtags at the bottom of our screen there. We'd like you guys to share hashtags with us on social media. For those of you who would like to spread the word about the Academy, hashtag Ubuntu Media Academy and hashtag LinkedIn Masterclass. You'll also see my hashtag, Funky Pixel Media, the name of my company, kind of helped birth this idea of the Ubuntu Media Academy along with my co-host, Kelechi Udwagu. So please go ahead and share your info there, and we'll get started here in just a few minutes. Kelechi's not going to be joining us this particular day. We co-hosted the very first webinar, I should say, back in January, the Google Docs class. But Kelechi has a couple of other commitments today and won't be able to join us, but she is here with us in spirit and inspiration. Kelechi is a great broadcast partner and we really enjoy working with each other. So it's been a really great class, a great series. And in fact, I have to give her public credit, international credit, for even coming up with this idea. Maybe we'll share more about the history of that one of these days in the future, about how this all came together. But again, initially, if you guys would sign in there and go ahead and enter your names and your countries where you hail from, we'll tell you a little bit more about who we are. We are a team of two, myself, Martin Lindsay in Louisville, Kentucky, and the United States, and Kelechi Udwagu of Accra, Ghana. Kelechi is originally from Nigeria, but she resides in Ghana. We are excited to collaborate to educate and empower young professionals all around the world, with an initial focus on young Ghanaian and Nigerian millennial professionals. Make sure they have all sorts of digital tools that are kind of standard in elevating one's life and professional pursuit. That can cover anyone from college students who are maybe researching co-op or internship positions and opportunities while they are in college, or maybe they're about to graduate and they're looking for their first full-time opportunity. Well, today we'll talk about some basic things that a college student should do to present themselves online with LinkedIn. I know here in the States, many colleges are beginning to take it seriously enough that they're giving some basics some basic training and fundamentals in professional use of social media for young people. So we'll get a little more of that today as well as we go in depth. And again, it's a little more detail here about the Academy. So, we're looking at a wide variety of people who have a variety of professional interests. Some are looking to be careerists and work for a company or organization of some sort, or maybe thinking about a sequence of career objectives. We're here for that crowd of folks. And others have aspirations of being entrepreneurs or buying their own companies, being franchisees and working for themselves. So, the same tools can be used to accomplish either objectives. In fact, again, as we'll go into depth and greater detail, Kelechi and I are an example of building a remote and global team. Again, she's in Ghana and I'm on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean in the United States. So we've collaborated on this program. So these things are very easy to do. You can see here that we're using YouTube and LinkedIn to teach you today. So let's go on to our agenda and talk about what we are going to cover today. Some thoughts on the basics. LinkedIn is more than an online resume. If you've ever been told that, get that idea out of your head from today going forward. LinkedIn is a networking and relationship building tool. It should lead to, potentially, if you're a job seeker, someone online asking you for your resume, or perhaps even making you an offer in an ideal situation. But LinkedIn is not your resume. Your resume and your CV serve one purpose. LinkedIn serves a completely different one. We'll go into detail on that as well. Some basic branding. How do you present yourself professionally online? Skills showcase. We'll talk about some of the particular things that you should have in tip-top shape from your summary, experience, your educational background, and your volunteer experience. Yes, volunteering matters for professionals and collegians. So you college students especially pay attention to that section, as well as you longtime working professionals or entrepreneurs. The next section we'll spend some time on is the communicating and networking part of the webinar today. This is where we talk a great degree of detail about what it takes to start building professional relationships in your city, in your country, around the planet. Doesn't matter how you plan your professional social media strategy. We talk about personalizing your connection request. We talk about intentional engagement. Some of professional social media habits, daily habits, have the same tools that you have on your fun social media. So we'll talk about the things that help engage and connect you to some of the professionals that you want to network with. And then as a follow-up to that engagement and making connection requests, what's a professional way to follow up with some of the people that you're interacting with? And then content and contributions. Part of a deeper dive into engagement and branding is the sorts of material that you interact with and you present and share on LinkedIn. So what are some of those things? They may be relevant professional posts. They could be recaps of events that you've attended, so that shows the degree of professional that you are and the things that interest you. Interesting blog posts from people who you respect or you become aware of because of an interesting story. And stories from your favorite e-blast. There are a couple of e-blasts that I get from different groups on a weekly basis involving entrepreneurship from different locales around the world. So, what some people call e-blast are also called e-newsletters. Those are the same things. And then at the end, we'll leave some time for Q&A session, and you can leave us your questions in the chat section as well. So that's what we have on Q for the afternoon/evening. So let's take a look at where we are here. I'm going to type my name in Lindsay. I'm from Louisville, USA. And again, we'll have some few minutes here for folks to join in. We've had quite a good number of registrants today. So thank you again for joining us. We'll give a few more minutes here, and we will start with skills, the skills and interest section of the program this afternoon. I'm going to find another section here to share with you guys. All right, I'm going to pull up. So some of you I suppose it's possible that some of you haven't yet used LinkedIn. So here's an opportunity to see what it actually looks like. Go to linkedin.com and click, very simply, the Join Now button there in blue on the bottom. You'll see here, let's see here. You'll see here where it has a Join Now in blue at the bottom, and you simply click there after adding your name, first and last name, an email address, and password, just like any other account that you would sign up for online. And after that point, you would log in every day with your email and password at the top here. Simple sign in, very easy to get into. So just in case we have any folks online who are not active LinkedIn users at the moment, that's how the page looks, linkedin.com. And I'll start with myself. When you have a completely filled profile, well, didn't mean to minimize the entire screen there. I'm going to go to another tab and show you what my LinkedIn profile looks like here. Give you a starter example of how a complete profile looks once you get started. You'll see here on my screen, you always start with some very basic things. A header profile picture, a headshot picture, just as with anything else. You want to make this your human self. Don't make it a logo or some inanimate object. LinkedIn is a personal professional relationship building platform. So that should be an image of who you are in reality. In the background, gives you a chance to insert a background image. That can be just about anything that you want. I decided to use my own company for branding purposes there. So we'll go into more detail about what some other folks have done with profiles that we're going to use as examples. You'll see as you scroll down, the reason you want to have consistent activity and things that you're posting online, because there's a articles and activities section. So whatever you post or write is shown in this section. So you'll see where, as an example, one of the very last things that I posted was one day ago about today's workshop. So you see different things there, things that I've liked, things that I've shared. All of those are here on the LinkedIn page, on the LinkedIn activity feed. So where it says Martin's activity, you insert your name, and that's where yours will be. On this particular second column shows things that I posted in particular over time. And the very first column here shows articles that I posted. Articles are specific LinkedIn blog posts. So LinkedIn has its own blogging feature as well. Anybody can write a LinkedIn blog post known as an article, excuse me, and that will become a part of your activity as well. So kind of a basic flow there of how things tend to go. So we'll start with we'll start with some thoughts on the basics. Again, your profile is much more than just an online resume. There are a variety of reasons that you might want to have a LinkedIn profile. And for students, you're looking for your first opportunity. You want to present your best self. So some of the basics include a headshot again. So what sort of headshot should a person have? Well, you want to see your entire face. Here's an example of one from Jason Falls. He's a digital media strategist here in my city, in Louisville, known as one of the leading strategists here in America, perhaps even around the world. I imagine Jason's beginning to get some international notoriety as well, if he doesn't have it already. But you'll notice, as an example, I like the way Jason presents himself and the way he presents in person, by the way. Jason's chosen to use a very tightly cropped headshot. People take their headshots different sorts of ways. You'll see a comparison between his and my own as an example. I kind of like to leave some headroom around almost any kind of photo that I take. So you'll see my entire head and part of my shoulders and chest as well. So I kind of like to see more of the total person there, but some folks like more closely cropped shots as well. So that works too. I particularly like the way that Jason also has as himself again as his background photo. So it's a very creative choice for a person to use themselves in both images. You'll see a profile perspective shot. Another really interesting thing, creatively and artistically, that stands out about Jason's in particular is that he uses a contrast of a color photo in one and a black and white photo in another. So people use all sorts of techniques to make themselves stand out. So yeah, that's the first. And the reason this is important is this is the first impression that anybody has of you online on LinkedIn. When they're doing a search for you, whether it's a recruiter who is using keyword search or looking for categories of people or doing a location check for your city or your country, this is part of the first thing that's going to show up in the preview. It's your headshot and background and a preview of your summary, which is the next section here. So a very important thing. It's whether you're being searched for academic reasons, you're a soon-to-be graduate, or you're doing it for, excuse me again, please, or if you're networking for professional reasons or for entrepreneurial reasons. These are some of the first things that are going to show up in search when people find you online. So really critical that you present yourself in a pretty standard way. Now, can you have a touch of personality? You can absolutely have a touch of personality. I would restrict that to those who are maybe in creative or theatrical pursuits and professions. For those of you who are more entrepreneurial, more of what I would call the straight-laced corporate professional type, you want something pretty straight on like this. And professional could mean any number of things depending on the sort of world you live in. In the technical world and creative world where I operate, again, I just use myself as a quick example. There's knit shirts are pretty standard feature. So that's my standard headshot for anything online that I use for professional purposes. So same picture on Twitter and other places as well. So very cool presentation the way Jason is presenting himself. The next component here is the headline. I like the way that Jason presents or writes his. Well, some people have this developed with 2 or 3 full sentences. Jason has how many words? Around 10 or so. And he marries the practice of digital strategy with marketing creative. Gets right to the point, telling you it's very general and all-encompassing. He can do a variety of different things for you, digitally, strategically, and creatively. And he says it in a very succinct way in one short sentence. The purpose of your headline is to draw attention immediately to who you are, what you do, and the value you bring to those who might want to reach out to you, or when you're the one reaching out with a connection request, your headline is going to be one of the first things that makes people think in their mind, why do I want to connect with this person? And so again, part of putting your best foot forward is having a strong headline. That's okay. Another person who has one that really impresses me. Tawana Ross is a LinkedIn coach and professional who has a slightly longer headline, and she gives you the full range of impact of who she is and what she does. And by the way, another purpose that the headline serves is that it's a good lead-in to the more detailed parts of the summary here. So maybe we'll use Tawana's headline as an example of how it then goes down into the next section and fills in the purpose of her summary as well. So Tawana is a best-selling author. She indicates that here in the headline, but she also gives you a snippet in the graphic above. So one section complements the other, and really cool, colorful background image. You can tell that the color scheme was well planned with some gold, greens, and different shades of blue, including the blue jeans that she's wearing. A very well planned graphic there. So everything that you see in pretty much everything you see in her headline is also reinforced in her graphic. She's a best-selling author. You see the top section of her book cover there. She's a Forbes Coaches Council speaker, and you see that also highlighted in the graphic on the right side. And she teaches you how to go from hunter to hunted. Again, reiterates everything she has in the background picture above. So everything in the header picture is reinforced by the headline. Excellent strategy by Tawana there to reinforce one section of her profile with the other. Now, how does all that tie together with the rest of how she presents herself? And again, you can take some of these tips for yourselves as well, whether you're taking notes on a tablet or if you have another tab open on your personal computers while you're watching the presentation here. This is worth one of those profiles that's worth taking example from. So she goes into, in the summary here, the value that she gives to her prospective clients. So as a consultant, She tells you what she does, gives a short paragraph, who she does it for. Those are her prospective clients. Why you do it, and what you can expect. So she gives you a feel for what the total process will be when you're working with her. Then she summarizes it all with what she does, and then she adds a little humor. Now, as an entrepreneur, she shows her human self. Common misspellings for Tawana: Tawana, Tawa, two N's and an A. Also, apparently, she's really seen her name butchered a lot in her life. But if you are looking for a Tawana, you will find her as the LinkedIn professor. But if you're searching her by name, be sure to spell her name correctly, folks. Tajuana Ross. And I really do recommend that you if you're looking for someone, other than Martin Lindsay, of course, Tawana Ross is one of those sorts of people who is a great resource as well. And the rest of the profile includes experience, education, volunteering, as you see here for Tawana's profile, her experience section, and she breaks hers down with her company cover tag there, cover image there. Instead of lumping everything together under one experience section, you see that she separates it into the different specialties and just does them as a different experience entry. So but for Get Over Yourself career and life coaching, she shows herself as a best-selling author. And then at the same time, just below, she shows herself as the president and CEO of her company. And you'll see that she breaks down. You can see the evolution of her career in her company with the unique dates of each. And below that, she shows when she began as a professional keynote speaker. So Tawana has shown how her company has evolved with 3 different descriptions in the experience section using the same company logo. And by the way, the logos that you see on the side here, those jump over to LinkedIn company pages. We'll talk about that a little closer at the end, maybe. Yeah, and then below that, so what Tawana has done is excuse me, getting over some sort of illness here. So please excuse the cough and hacking sound. I hope it's not blowing out your speakers anywhere. So what you see is that she uses the paragraph style to use a degree of detail for each section. And in the bottom, below that, you'll see all the other detailed sections that she presented in her headline and header graphic laid out as well. And of course shows where she was educated as well. And all of those, the different colleges she's attended also have LinkedIn company pages, as well as most of the other places where she's worked. As a comparison, just to show you the variety of the ways that information can be presented on LinkedIn, let's look at Jason's profile and go a little deeper into how he presents his as well. Jason kind of lives and works in 2 different cities here in the state of Kentucky in the United States. So during the day, Jason is director of digital and social strategy at a company in Lexington, Kentucky, and he's the founder and partner of his own company based here in Louisville as well. And he's done a few other things as well. And you'll notice design and description wise, as compared to Tawana, who has laid out a great degree of detail for each of her entries, Jason has chosen to do short paragraphs for each. And there's no one wrong or right way to do these things, because remember, LinkedIn isn't an online resume, so you don't have to go into a degree of detail, in the way that you'd show your accomplishments on a resume or a CV. You can do a very brief synopsis in the way that Jason has done. You'll see all the places that he has worked, has a LinkedIn company page. You'll see the colleges that Jason has attended, Morehead University and West Virginia University. And you'll see some of the places that he has volunteered for as well. So you can see from Jason's volunteer experience that education is important to him. So the National Centers for Families Learning, for instance, is a national nonprofit here in America. And Jason also has volunteered at our local public library system. So he believes in the values of literacy and education, and he shows it there in his volunteer experience. Those things are extremely important. So those are examples of people who have used their experience, their summary, education, and volunteer experiences in a very effective way. I'm going to take let's see, what do we want to show here? And I'm going to take a brief adjustment here to add a few more details to the chat section. Again, for those of you who are just joining us, please add your name and the country that you are from, whence you hail, in the chat. Tell us which country you're from. If you're sharing on social media today about today's webinar, also please use the following hashtags. I'm going to just pop them into the chat section here. Hashtag Ubuntu Media Academy, hashtag LinkedIn Masterclass, and you can touch base with Kelechi Dwagu and myself on our Twitter pages. We'll respond to you later because we're live here, of course. So you can touch base with me at Funky Pixel Media, and you can touch base with Kelechi at her Twitter handle, at Kelechi Dwagu. Let's see, and I need to undo. I didn't mean to paste. I meant to copy Kelechi's name so that I can paste it here. So you'll see those in the chat section. Again, that's for those of you joining us. This is the Ubuntu Media Academy's YouTube channel for today's webinar, using LinkedIn to get ahead personally and professionally. So far we've covered the nature of a LinkedIn profile. It's not an online resume. It's not an online CV. It is an online relationship and business development tool. We talked about headshots. We talked about the headline, summary, experience sections, and volunteer sections. So we'll get back to that. There is one particular person that Kelechi wanted me to be sure to share with you guys. I really like the way that this guy, some tips that he shared on the purpose of the purpose of the different first sections of a profile. He was talking about the headline description and the purpose that it serves. So it's from a guy by the name of Chris Williams. I'm going to share his in just a second here. And really good tips that are worth you following, and notes worth keeping up with. Where are we here, Chris? I think that's it right there. Yep, there it is. So here's what Chris has to share. LinkedIn tip, and this is probably something that he posted one day. If you're seeking a new role, make sure that your title fits in line with what you want recruiters to find you for. In other words, use keywords. You want to be very strategic about how you post any degree of detail. You want to use search words that recruiters are likely to be searching for, or that potential clients or customers are likely to be searching for. So it's worth doing, Google search for keywords. You may want to use Google Analytics to use their search their search tools to determine what the best hashtags, the most popular key phrases are. Or you could just write your own list out and search yourself to see how popular they are. Another technique that I like to use, even for refining my LinkedIn searches, I like to use Instagram and type in just different categories of words and hashtags to see how popular they are. Interestingly enough, if a hashtag or search phrase is popular on Instagram, even though it's a completely visual and multimedia related site, it's very likely that it also resonates well on LinkedIn. So you should absolutely use some of those keywords. Some of those keywords in other social media platforms absolutely transfer directly over to LinkedIn here. And another point that Chris makes is make sure that your title tells you the value that you bring to the table. So again, another important emphasis point on the fact that this is not an online resume, but it is a relationship and business development tool, is that his title doesn't tell people what he does. I mean, rather, it tells people what he does, not what his title is. Leave your titles basically for the experience section. That's the only part of your LinkedIn profile that should have a title on it. That people will know from the rest of your details that you're the founder of a company or something like that. Unless you discover that founder, for instance, is a key search term. So, those are some things to keep in mind as well. So we spent a little bit of time there. We're going to transition to connection requests. How in the world do I connect with people on LinkedIn in the first place? Well, that involves activity, folks. You have to share your interest in other people. Share why you want to connect. So let's dig into that. I've shared some templates here on that I like to use when I'm working with clients. I like to call them just starter templates to reach out to people for a connection request and to do follow-up. So you'll see the first section here, sample connection request. I've created a couple that I use, and I inserted one that Kalichi wanted to be sure that you guys were aware of as well. Something that she posted in a former one of her blog posts from a while back. And then we'll go just a tad below that and give you some ideas of how to follow up with a person who has connected with you. Because once you connect, it's not just about collecting a lot of people as connections or followers on your profile. You will have occasion to follow up with particular people as well, or be such an impactful person online yourself that other people will have cause to reach out to you. But it involves engagement and activity. Excuse me again, please. And so let's start at the top. So LinkedIn professional relationship building connections is where we'll start. So it's all about personalized notes, and we could use any number of approaches. I kind of like to use an approach that can be used to reach out to almost anybody. Again, these are a couple that I use pretty consistently. If you've posted something and someone has liked or commented on or shared your post, don't leave that as as uh as unanswered uh activity. Don't just take that as a compliment that somebody liked or commented and or shared your post. Reach out to them if they're not already a connection. The great thing about LinkedIn posts, LinkedIn activity, is that anybody who's on LinkedIn who notices it can respond to it. So whether they're a connection or not, a person can respond to anything that you've posted or shared. So if a person gives a like, excuse me, I really apologize for all the coughing today. Back together though. And but one of the things is if you share something that's really interesting, people might comment or like, and you can react to it and begin developing a relationship potentially with that person. If they leave a comment, you can respond to the comment and begin an engaging conversation, going back and forth on 2 or 3 comments and questions to each other that may, motivate one of you to reach out for a connection request. So here, I might say like, oh, let's say for instance, I wanted to, reach out to Kalichi and I didn't already know her. I could say something like, hi, Kalichi, I appreciate your comment about whatever the subject was she commented on from my post on American football versus international football. I don't know. And I like to network our professional networks and learn more about what you do. Thanks, Martin. And 10 times out of 11, most people respond to a personalized request of that nature. Another example, I might have read something about something that someone else posted. So instead of me responding to them instead of my motivation being that they commented on something I post, this time I'm reaching out because of something that they posted or something that was posted about them. So it could be that maybe I've heard about Kalichi in some African entrepreneurial blog post. So I could say, hi Kalichi, I just read about you in the blog post titled Amazing Young Entrepreneurs on Entrepreneurs in Ghana's website, or whatever the website may be. And I'd like to network our professional networks. You'll notice that I use that consistently in both of them. I like to emphasize the way I write connection requests that I'm not just interested in networking with an individual. I like to emphasize 2 things actually when I'm doing anything on LinkedIn, that I want to network professional networks so that if other people that I'm networking with haven't thought about it, we don't want to just meet with each other. Potentially, if we're developing a relationship, we want to meet each other's pool of professionals in some form or fashion. So I'll always keep that in mind. You don't want to just network with a person. You want to network with their network. It all begins with this initial connection request, whether you reach out to them or they reach out to you. Doesn't matter who initiates contact. And the other thing, a philosophy that I followed out that I learned about last year, kind of affirmed the way I've always used LinkedIn, is you want to build your network before you need it. So you could use either of reasons like that or any other thing that piques your interest about a person to reach out to them, even if you don't need what it is they do. If you might not need their service or their skill set or their expertise, but there's something interesting about them that you want to stay in touch. Maybe you'll just follow their posts or their articles for a while and comment or like or share every now and then. And then there will be something that will make them either reach out to you, or they'll post something interesting enough that actually does directly interest you, and you'll reach out to them at a later point. So don't be shy about not having a particular reason of wanting to speak to a person. That's not relevant on LinkedIn. What is relevant, what is important, is that they have a skill set or a story or a background or whatever that interests you, and you simply want to stay in touch with whatever their narrative is in the world. So those are a couple of ways that I like to do it. Whatever the motivation is, I always tie it together with networking, professional networks. Now, here's the way that Kalichi wrote one a little while back. Hi, I'm an avid reader of your column in blank. Kind of, she does it the same way I do, just leave the blanks and for you to fill in. I just watched your interview on blank. So again, the way Kalichi starts out is she references some of the variety of media. So it doesn't matter if you've read something online or in print or seen a webisode of a show or a news report on your local or national television. You know, anything is a motivation, could be a motivation for you to reach out to a person. I want to thank you for all your efforts to do whatever that person's done. I would love to ask you a few questions on the matter and appreciate if we can connect and schedule a call or chat at your convenience. So what Kalichi is doing a connection request and an ask for contact at the same time in one request. So that's one style of doing it. I tend to do slightly differently. I kind of like make the contact first, and then I'll talk about doing a follow up for a call or video conference as a second step. So I kind of like to break it up to leave a little something to begin a follow up conversation. But both approaches are valid. You can make a greeting one part and a request to connect directly, vocally or in person. The second part of the beginning of the second part of your conversation. So here's how I've done it as follow-up messaging. Now I'll go ahead and split these down. So thanks for connecting. First sample of a follow-up message. Again, these can all be customized. After a person is connected with you, I say thanks for connecting. Whoever that person is, really appreciate your comments on whatever it is. I reemphasize why I wanted to reach out in the first place. And that's where I say, I'd like to know more about what you do. Could we schedule some time for a phone call or a video conference in the next week? That's specifically for people who don't live in the city where I am. So, this is how you grow your network nationally within your country or globally around the world. Skype, Google Hangouts, Zoom, and all sorts of other video conferencing platforms are out there. Most of them are free as a starter program, and there are premium plans that for a monthly or yearly fee, just like every platform, every multimedia platform online. But that's the kind of way that I like to do it. I'll do a phone call or a Skype call or WhatsApp call, whatever works for people in a different country. It's interesting. Different countries use different platforms, and some in some respects it's regional within continents. With the African network that I've been building up, a lot of people say, "Hey, let's do WhatsApp. That's real easy." Sometimes that's easier depending on geography than Skype or Google Hangouts. So there's an example of a follow-up message, and you can customize that for any connection request that you've sent. Again, you could customize that as well. Maybe a person who reaches out to you interests you in so much that you want to connect with them after you've accepted their connection request to you. So even if you're not the initiator, you might think somebody's just interesting enough that you don't wait for them to follow up. You're interested in following it more immediately. So also valid response. So here's another example. Thanks for connecting. I see from your profile that your work with whatever involves some sort of skill set, and I'd like to learn more about your experience in that area. Could we schedule some time for a call or a video conference? Again, that's on the assumption that that last line's on the assumption that a person's at long distance and they're not easy to get to know in person. Here locally, or any city locally, the alternative to that is, if you, depending on how you like to network. I prefer networking in person. So locally, I would ask a person for a phone call or a coffee appointment, or whatever it is you like to drink, coffee or tea, or at a local coffee house, or a tea house, or whatever the traditional sort of restaurant might be in your country. So here in Louisville in particular, coffee appointments are very popular. Every now and then people will have a lunch appointment. They can't make it at the very beginning of the day. Lunch requests are very popular on LinkedIn as well. So, whatever it takes to reach out to a person, try the coffee appointment or the lunch appointment if it's a local person, because relationships are always more fruitful and likely to last longer when you're face to face with the person. I make coffee appointments around town all the time. But again, with long distance, video conference may be more effective. So just offer the suggestion to folks and see how they respond. And here's another thing: in general, if people don't respond to your connection request, don't worry about it. Everybody on LinkedIn isn't actually an active user. Some people just have it because everybody says they have to have one. I know a lot of people, a lot of college students have their LinkedIn profiles only because the career center on their campus said it's a requirement. And I've heard quite a few college students said, "Yeah, I have one, but I never use it. They told me I had to have one. We had a short class one day, and that's about it." So that tends to be the way it works. Although some colleges are getting better at being, actively engaging and teaching students how to actively use their profiles with activity like we're emphasizing here today. So that's the gist of communicating and relationship building. We'll veer over to another degree of detail about how to engage. What is effective engagement on LinkedIn? What should we comment on, like, and share? That's basically what we're talking about. So what can you share? What's worth sharing on LinkedIn? In a word, everything. Let's see. I'll share one of the leading African entrepreneurs as our next slide here. Hang on just a second. Let me get over to transitioning this next one. But one of the things you want to do activity wise, part of your strategy for LinkedIn activity and engagement, is to always engage on the platform with activity. For example, one of the leading international entrepreneurs in the British and especially African IT space is Ethel Kofi. I've been following Ethel probably for about a year or so now, and she's the founder of Edel Technology Consulting. So as you see from her profile there, her work covers Ghana and the United Kingdom. I think she's of Ghanaian background. I don't remember quite very specifically, but I think that is the case. But she is a transatlantic entrepreneur working in Great Britain and in Ghana. You'll see we can review some of Ethel's profile as well. You'll see that she's inserted multimedia in her profile. So another benefit of having a well-developed experience section is that you can insert multimedia. So if someone has written a blog post about you, like here, you can you can attach that inside one of your experience sections. If someone has made a video of you, you can insert the video interview or file in there as well. Um, so Ethel's really good at inserting multimedia into each section. Here's some information from her work that goes directly to her personal website. Um, Definitely worth checking out, by the way. And she's also the founder of Women in Tech Africa. One of the things that you'll find is, it's worth you guys investigating, researching for yourselves as well, is that there's a huge entrepreneurial movement on the African continent, not just on a small scale basis, but on, well, it's a huge economic movement in Africa. And entrepreneurship is just one of those components. But there's a huge movement in getting women and girls engaged in coding and women involved in entrepreneurship specifically. And Ethel is one of the leaders in that space. So you'll see some multimedia inserted in her efforts as part of Women in Tech Africa. So there are all kinds of really cool organizations like that involving African women becoming involved in technology, careers, entrepreneurship, all sorts of really cool things. So that's an example there of Ethel Kofi, another person, African woman worth following. And you see how she delineates some of the details of what she's all about in her summary section. But let's go to a couple of other things. I'll use my profile here. So how do you see activity on a LinkedIn profile? Where would you go to see something that might interest you to comment on, to like, or to share? Well, very easy. Once you're logged in, click on the in button, and that takes you to your activity feed. So the various people that you may be connected to, whatever's in their activity, falls into your feed across the course of the day. So you could literally go here and see what's being fed into your page this day. Juliette Assant is, for example, has, so speaking of women in technology and media in Ghana, she's a filmmaker. She's a founder of the Black Star International Film Festival in Accra. So, if I look at what Juliette's posted about an hour ago, there's a picture of her and some folks in a photo shot there. I could click on the comments feed there. I'll kind of like briefly see what the activity is. 22 people have liked it within an hour, and I can click on the comments to see what the 9 comments were. So different people have commented on it. There's one from Lucy Quest, also a lady worth knowing in African tech. There's Eric Kofi Day and Number One Manu and various others who have left comments. If I were interested, I could do the same thing. There's the add a comment section. So I could start engaging with this conversation in the post that Juliette had started here. Or I could even make a comment. I could like or reply to a comment that someone else has already left. So I can engage the person who posts. I can engage another person who's commented. And if I'm not connected with either of those folks, they may decide to reach out to me, or I may decide to reach out to them. So there's all sorts of opportunities for you to be able to engage with other folks on the platform. Or if you're already connected to some of those folks, it's just an opportunity. It's an opportunity to build that relationship. So you could, if I were so inclined, I could like, I could comment on, or I could share Juliette's post. Now, the best thing about the sharing option here is not only can I share, but I can share and comment. So you'll see here that I have the option, and this is something that you should absolutely do. Uh, don't just share a post; share a short caption, or if you're you so inclined and you there's really a lot that you got out of it, go at length at why you're sharing a particular post, and maybe even throw a hashtag or two in there so that it could fall into a list that others out there in the world of LinkedIn might want to engage with Juliet and read her post and articles and content as well. And again, just as with anything else on social media, hashtags build lists. So when you're posting some original content, in order to help yourself generate comments, likes, and shares, hashtag it with relevant hashtags. Do the same favor for other people as well when you're sharing theirs. So I could share this. When I share the feed, that's basically meaning sharing it to my feed. Or I could send it as a message to someone. Suppose I know another creative person or a filmmaker. I might say, hey, you should check out this post by this filmmaker and festival creator from Accra, Ghana. I could type that person's name in, and if I'm connected to them, their name would pop up, and I would send it to them. So those are the sorts of things. I'm not going to actually send this to anyone, but this is just an example to show you. But there's all sorts of ways that you can share and engage in content that begin building relationships and potentially generate new connections for you or for others. There are all kinds of other things as well. So companies have promotions on LinkedIn. So yes, there are ads on LinkedIn. Surprise, surprise. But if you doesn't interest you, don't worry about it. Scroll past. Or if it does interest you, engage with it. Again, you can insert multiple images of multimedia as well. You'll see here that Patricia Williams is a lady here in my city who's posted multiple pictures as part of her post. So a variety of things here, really, really, really cool. Adobe Creative Cloud has a video. They have lots of instructional video. I'm a creative person, so I use their products. So Creative Cloud is the kind of thing that I might actually pay attention to and engage with. But all sorts of things. It's really great. So pay attention to your feed. As the more you get engaged, the more sharing and connecting that you do, the more interesting things you will begin to see in your feed. And as part of the follow-up strategy, you will want to follow up with some notable people in your industries as well. If there are people who you admire, reach out to them. You never know; they may not be as out of reach as you think. The old saying is there are 6 degrees of separation between anybody on the planet, and I think I read even more recent. That's the traditional estimate. With social media, that's kind of shrunk down. The person you want to see is only 2 or 3 social media social media connections away from you. So absolutely engage in this process. You will not be surprised who you could potentially connect with, because there are 500 million people from over 200 countries, I should say, who are on LinkedIn. You can connect with anybody around the world. I do it all the time. So I'm sharing with you what I do. Another good feature, check on the job site. The jobs tab has, I can't remember if this is just a premium feature or if it's a feature for everyone, but at a very minimum, it's worth checking to see if you have a jobs button. I'm really not sure if that's for everyone or not, but should you see that, it's very, very cool page for those of you who are career seekers, whether you're transitioning or you are a first-time job seeker. It gives you, LinkedIn's artificial intelligence creates a suggested list for you of companies you might be interested in seeing. Because viewed someone at the Omni Hotels. A new hotel opened here in Louisville. So it said since I engaged with them in recent weeks, it's giving me more suggestions. And it's also looking at taking into account one of the colleges I attended. It's DePaul University's logo there from in Chicago, Illinois, one of the big cities here in America. Uh, Other suggestions: there's a media director position that's open that someone might be interested in. And LinkedIn has courses as well, and all sorts of other things. Right? There are a variety of companies that will be suggested to you and positions that are open. But let's just go to one. The it's This is something that's really for you uh, students as well. But let's just which company should we check at? Uh, let's see a big company here, Johnson and Johnson. You know those logos that you see in the experience section here? Well, you know what? Let's do it this way. Let's go back to Jason Falls's page. Now, all those companies that we just showed you on the previous page, those companies have company pages. If you look on a personal profile, those are also company pages. So, for instance, let's look at one of Jason's old companies. He used to work at a place here called Cafe Press. If I click on Cafe Press and I go to that company's company page, guess what I've done? I've opened myself up to an entirely new network of people. So even if you're not a job hunter or a recruiter, it's worth clicking on company pages that catch your eye just to see engage in a potentially new pool, a new network that you normally wouldn't access. So and if you want to really engage in a page, here's like an unfollow button. Obviously, well, maybe not so obviously, so I'll tell you. When you click on the three dots over here, you can follow the company's page and you'll begin to get access to all the details of their profile. The About Us sections where a company can go into detail about who it is, including their website. So you can generate web traffic for your website with a LinkedIn company page. Even if you're a small one-man, one-woman shop, you can own a LinkedIn company page and put all your degree of detail there. So I have one connection who works there. If I were to look interested in working at Cafe Press, I would check out to see who that person was. There are a lot of followers of they're almost 45. They're more than 4,500 LinkedIn followers who are following Cafe Press's page. So they're getting a lot of traffic on their company page, and there are 535 employees who work there. So I don't know if I were interested in networking with Cafe Press employees. Look at that. I could reach out to any number of people who do any number of things there. So this is just one example. But if I wanted to learn more about a company while I'm job hunting, or if I'm an HR specialist of any sort, and I want to begin getting some insight, so get the inside scoop and info on a company, the best way to do that is to go to a company page on LinkedIn and begin doing what we showed you earlier, sending out some connection requests and seeing if a person would be willing, after they accept your connection request, see if they'd be willing to talk or to meet in person. So that's a lot of front to back on how you would tie this thing together. Again, if you haven't already, I'd like you to share and engage in the chat section. I'm going to share those hashtags with you one more time here, and tags. You can engage with Kalichi at Kalichi Udwagu. And Kalichi's not with us today, but I hope she's impressed that I got improving on pronouncing her name. I said I'm getting better on pronouncing international names, Kalichi, and gave her a little chuckle. LinkedIn Masterclass is the one of the hashtags, and the Ubuntu Media Academy is who we are as an organization, sharing tips with you. So again, um, and we're about to. Those are the main things that I want to share with you guys today. Um, and one thing that I want to show you, if you were curious to know more about how Kalichi engages uh, with job search, a couple of years ago, she wrote a blog post on bellanija.com, and excuse me, how to get a job without connections in Nigeria. So this is where we got the details. So she gives you again a combination of the traditional and online work that you need to do to find your next opportunity. So keep some of those things in mind as well. Now that will go back here. So some of the sorts of content that you can share, what's worth sharing on LinkedIn. There are some of the things that you can share include summaries of events that you've attended. Again, you'll see that that's an example of what Juliet Assad used in one of her posts that I just shared with you. Uh, why does anybody care what you attended? Well, it shows who you are as a professional. It shows that you know how to network in person. Networking is an important part of relationship building, and it is still best done person to person. So you want to go to events in your city and share selfies and video or your shots of the room or the guest speaker. Yes, people do use selfies on LinkedIn, and it is very much professional thing. And you don't want to do you know Facebook goofy shots necessarily, but yes, people put selfies on LinkedIn all the time, and it shows that you were engaged with the people who were there. Uh, you want to show goals that you've achieved and your latest career milestones are some things that you'll want to share. Uh, could be anything. Could be an award you won at or a presentation of some sort that you recently won. Uh, could have been a program that you attended. Anything. It really doesn't matter what it is. You may have you may be the speaker at some sort of conference or what have you. Anything that's important to you is worthy of sharing with others. Could be inspiring to them for any number of reasons. So I want to keep those things in mind. What else? Reviews of books you read. Uh, Old-fashioned media is absolutely the way to go. You should always share some insights from great authors, and if you yourself are a writer, share uh, what you've written and some insights from your book. I know when I read a good business book, I absolutely want to share a synopsis of it. I went to a social media conference here in Louisville a few months ago before the Christmas holiday, and three speakers jumped out at me. I bought each of their books and still going through them as well. Wrote a LinkedIn article on each of them, and so the old fashioned book review is great content. You absolutely want to give people a chance to write about your book when you start writing as well. Hint, hint. So interesting blog post. You should absolutely share blog posts that catch your eye, and interesting stories again from your favorite e-blast. So, everything that we kind of shared really briefly at the beginning, everything is shareable in this environment. You college students, you may have some unique experiences on campus that might be relevant to a recruiter or to a company. So, share your experiences. And those of you who don't have work experience, again, your volunteer experience is valuable as well. Don't just leave it to the volunteer section in your profile. Take some pictures and videos of the things that you do on campus or in the city where your college exists. That serves as your professional content. Show us, you show the rest of the world who you are. Anything engaging that you put online could serve a professional purpose for you and cause a recruiter to reach out to you, or just cause other people to share what you've posted and make you more noticeable and branded and grow your following. So at this point, we're at the question and answer period. Now we've covered a lot here in the last hour and 15 minutes. Man, time has blown by. So question and answer. If you have any questions, the chat section is available. Excuse me again. And let's see here. Again, those hashtags are LinkedIn Masterclass and Ubuntu Media Academy. I want to thank those of you who have chimed in. We'll give you a few minutes to see if there are any questions that anyone has at this point. And we'd like to thank those of you who also joined us in January for Google Docs. So we hope these first couple of classes have given you some value, having covered Google Docs best practices and LinkedIn best practices, and you put some of these things into practice. So subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch both videos when you have more time, and help us out by sharing this as content as well. This video is can be shared as part of your contribution. If you got some value out of it, share it with your LinkedIn community and have and suggest that those folks follow us on Eventbrite the next time we have an event, and register for the event page as well. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pull up our masterclass page and share that with you as the closing image today. So yeah, we'll give a few more minutes here for folks to share any questions that you may have about today's class. And if not, that's fine as well. Oh, and silly me. If you're interested in connecting with me on LinkedIn, ooh, we don't want to have that dark page there, do we? Hang on just a second there. You can go to LinkedIn as well and search me. I'm Martin Lindsay on LinkedIn, and I'll show you my profile one more time here. And we'll also share Kalichi's LinkedIn page. So that's mine. I am Martin Lindsay. There are a bunch of Martin Lindsays on the planet, but I'm typically the first in a search, especially on a LinkedIn search. And we'll pull up Kalichi's profile as well. And if you would like to pull up Kalichi's page, that's her, Kalichi Duago. So you'll see, and profile's absolutely worth searching out. Kalichi does cool stuff. You'll catch her the next time around on our next broadcast, perhaps. So that's who we are. We are the Ubuntu Media Academy. Kalichi Duwagu out of Accra, Ghana, and Martin Lindsay out of Louisville, Kentucky. And that is it for this broadcast about LinkedIn best practices, our LinkedIn masterclass. Please share. Please subscribe to the Ubuntu Media Academy's YouTube channel and share our recorded broadcast. And we will see you the next time around. Thanks, and everybody have a great rest of your work day or rest of the evening.